sounds like a lot of... What? It sounds like a lot... What? Sounds like a... What?
What do you get when you create a cartoon and pitch the pilot for that cartoon to Nickelodeon? That's right, Nicktoons. After the 1980s formula of creating cartoons based on toy lines declined in the 1990s, it was all but certain that Saturday morning was dead and cartoons would soon fade into obscurity, never to be complete flops ever again. A niche cartoon channel watched by nerds who couldn't get with the times. And then a couple of months later, both Doug, Rugrats, and the Ren and Stimpy show dropped, inspired by other cartoon channels like Fox Kids and Disney Afternoon. Nicktoons were the epitome of popular cartoons and the most unapologetic cartoon channel of all time. Due to the cartoons being completely unhinged, it was also unapologetic due to Nickelodeon never apologizing for Ren and Stimpy or those classy Tupo character designs.
You don't want to be like this. This is disgusting.
By the way, I don't want to say this, but why aren't you subscribed to the channel? And as much as I can't stand it when YouTube asks for subscribers, apparently it really helps. So if you're watching this, I'd appreciate it. Anyway, back to the video. So when both Doug, Rugrats, and the Ren and Stimpy show debuted in 1991, it was the beginning of a new era, and the first step in Classy Chupo's plan to become the emperor of cartoons. Suddenly, every Nicktoon had distinct art styles, memorable characters, and a blend of humor that appealed to both kids and adults. And worst of all, this trend showed no signs of stopping. The most important thing to remember when talking about Nicktoons is that Nicktoons are actually not Nicktoons. Doug is a Disney Channel show. The Ren and Stimpy show was supposed to be for adults. The characters in the Penguins of Madagascar are owned by DreamWorks Animation. Everybody knows that Winx Club was an Italian preschool show the whole time. And if I call Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a Nicktoon, 4 kids will be mad at me. About 2 years after both Doug, Rugrats, and the Ren and Stimpy show debuted, when everyone had collectively decided to skip over man's best friend while watching Ren and Stimpy, Joe Murray would release Rocko's Modern Life, to not much critical acclaim. Probably for the best though, because while John got away with the most controversy he could while working on Ren and Stimpy, Joe needed absolutely no controversy to get away with. In the same year that Korn dropped a bomb with the release of their self-titled album, Klasky Csupo would also drop a bomb with the release of Real Monster. Just 3 years after creating Rugrats with Paul Germain, who could have seen that coming? Craig Bartlett got a job at Nickelodeon after releasing Hey Arnold, and teenagers all over America were blessed with Helga, both loving and hating Arnold.
How I love you. And yet I hate you.
3 brothers would create the sketch comedy anthem with the release of Kablam. And Mitch Schauer managed to work on episodes for the Angry Beavers before the worst tragedy in all of U.S. history occurred. In March 1998, a man named Peter Hannon had to accomplish a goal. So to accomplish this goal, he would drop Cat Dog on April 4th to permanently and cosmically doom all sentient life. Although Doug may have done it first, I've spoken to 3 different Nicktoons on this topic, and unanimously, I have been told that this show was when Nicktoons erupted into the flop era.
the joke here was that T2 is trash, but I've actually kind of warmed up to it and I've watched. The joke is staying in the video though, so...
And an even bigger tragedy, Frank Sinatra died and never got to see Oh Yeah cartoon, which dropped 2 months later. It was from this moment on that pilots for 3 of our favorite Nicktoons would premiere on TV. These 3 Nicktoons were The Fairly Odd Parents, Chalk Zone, and My Life as a Teenage Robot. So once Frederator Studios pitched the pilots to Nickelodeon, they approved them. So Nickelodeon greenlit an entire show for these 3 shows. I once showed my friends the infamous Wild Thornberrys episode, Dinner with Darwin. And when Donnie started playing with the trash cans,
whatever those were,
my friends collectively started calling him Lars Ulrich. Needless to say, the Wild Thornberrys was such a popular cartoon. Steven Hillenburg told the creators of Rocko's Modern Life to quit their jobs and release SpongeBob SquarePants.
R.I.P. Steven Hillenburg, you were a legend, Steve.
And lastly, Class E Chupo created Rocket Power. Overall, an amazing decade for Nicktoons, but I kind of still feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh no, what did I... were the decade for Nicktoons. We got As Told by Ginger, The Fairly Odd Parents,
Good.
Invader Zim,
Good.
Action League Now,
Watch it.
Chalk Zone,
Great.
The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, All Grown Up, My Life as a Teenage Robot, Danny Phantom,
Good.
Avatar The Last Airbender,
Good.
Cat Scratch,
Not the best.
The X's,
Bad.
El Tigre,
Horrible!
The Adventures of Manny Rivera,
A 0 out of 10.
Tack and the Power of Juju,
It's okay.
Back at the Barnyard, The Mighty Bee,
It's okay.
The Penguins of Madagascar,
Good.
Random Cartoons, Fanboy and Chum Chum. This decade was an all-you-could-eat buffet for Nicktoons. And crazy to think, The Fairly Odd Parents, Jimmy Neutron, and Danny Phantom all debuted in one decade. There was no way cartoons would ever be the same with the turn of the millennium. This decade was absolute chaos starting in October 2000, when Emily Kapnick would create As Told by Ginger. This decade was the climax for Nicktoons. As time does what it always does, Nicktoons would only decline from this point on. Now, I will refrain from making any 9/11 jokes because it's just too easy. The Fairly Odd Parents and Invader Zim would each get their own respective Nicktoons. And the Broken Toys from Kablam also got a show named Action League Now. If you think I'm wrong about Nicktoons declining, Google actually listed Samurai Jack as one of the best Nicktoons of 2001.
It's a joke. It's a joke. Oh.
But don't worry though, because everything else was actually pretty great. We got Chalk Zone, The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, All Grown Up, My Life as a Teenage Robot, and supposedly a show called Danny Phantom. But forget all of that, though, because the best of the best cartoon of all time has arrived. Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko would come together and create an entire show. And that show would become none other than Avatar, The Last Airbender. But unfortunately, there was a new phenomenon in the world of cartoons. The late 2000s. The early 2000s were a changing landscape. And in the age of cultural shock, widespread internet access, mobile phones, and the Nintendo GameCube, the aesthetic of Nicktoons were simply just getting old. And so was the aesthetic of nu metal. And the culture of Cartoon Network was taking over. And it was in this twilight of Nicktoons that Doug Knapple finally dropped Cat Scratch. This show is the Maury show of Nicktoons.
Monty show.
It dropped right as Nicktoons were declining in popularity and completely missed the mark. Overall, the show wouldn't be bad if only I could see it over the aesthetic of Gordon turning into a monster. Okay, it is at this part of the video that I do need to address something. I don't actually think Teen Titans killed Nicktoons. Yes, Cartoon Network was the newest trend in cartoons after Nicktoons, but I don't think it killed Nicktoons by any stretch of the imagination. So no, Teen Titans did not kill Nicktoons. The Fairly Odd Parents did. Yes, The Fairly Odd Parents was technically a Nicktoon, but more importantly, they were influential, and it was a perfect bridge between Nicktoons and the rising scene of Cartoon Network. In the late 2000s, we got the X's, L.T. Grade, The Adventures of Manny Rivera, Cat and the Power of Juju, Back at the Barnyard, The Mighty Beat, Random Cartoons, and I'm not even gonna count Fanboy and Chum Chum as a Nicktoon.
Because it sucks.
Take a quick peek at the Cartoon Network scene that decade. We have The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Codename Kids Next Door, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Camp Lazlo, Samurai Jack, Teen Titans, Chowder, My Gym Partner's a Monkey, The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, Ben 10, Sheep in the Big City, Time Squad, Whatever Happened to Robot Jones, Megas XLR, Hi Hi Puffy Amy Yummy, Class of 3000, and right in the middle of these two scenes, we had Nickelodeon and DreamWorks in their legendary release of The Penguins of Madagascar, a masterpiece of a cartoon, leading the charge into more emotional cartoons. Nicktoons didn't exactly die in the same way that Saturday morning cartoons did. They just got old. The shows that made up Nicktoons' flop era either changed their aesthetic, faded from public consciousness, or just simply stopped releasing new episodes. Nicktoons are still around. There wasn't really a single moment Nicktoons ceased, just like there was no single moment when it came into existence. Although, if there was a single moment when Nicktoons died, it was probably Breadwinner.
Buckle up, duckies, cause we got a rocket band. The limerine red flying crazy country
That happened, and we all let it happen.
Nicktoons were an evolution of a rapidly changing culture in cartoons. And much like how cartoons from the 2000s and 2010s would draw upon inspiration from cartoons like SpongeBob and Fairly Odd Parents, Fairly Odd Parents and SpongeBob drew inspiration from cartoons like The Grim Adventures of Bill and Mandy and Codename Kid Next Door, and even Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. And now, the last thing I'll say is cartoons suck. Saturday morning was a mistake.
Hey, these will look great in the photo album. You may have won the battle, little dude, but you lost the war. You're not a mess with us, pal. You're dangerous.
Move out of the way so I can fit.
Hurry.
Listen.
never gonna eat it.
No.
Let him go!
Let him go!
Kevin,
Kevin, run!
shoot her!
Shoot her!
Shoot her!
Shoot her! I'm trying to shoot her!
Yeah, should have started early. Prisoners have already exchanged.
We missed the presents. He made us hide out in the store so we could steal all the kiddies' charity money. Shut up. Wait for me, silent, you know. Cranky. Just broke out of prison a few days ago.
Check it out, Bill! It's like lightning running through my sticks! Check it out, Bill Collins! Well, where did I go? Wow. Sorry, dude, I just got lost in the moment.